Hello and welcome back. Now that we are able to either create a new customer or retrieve an existing customer by the email, okay, we want to create an intent, and that intent will map to the customer. So whichever customer is making a payment, we are going to use the customer ID that we are returning right here and then map it to that intent we want to create. So let's go back to the documentation. Now, instead of customers, let's see where we create intent. Okay. So let's scroll down to payment intents. So payment intents. Okay. So it says a payment intent guides you through the process of collecting a payment from your customer. Okay. Now we recommend that you create exactly one payment intent for each order. Okay. Or customer session in your system. Okay. So this is just these are the endpoints. And yeah, these are the objects after the intent was created. Now what we want to see, let's see the create a payment intent. Okay, so in order for us to create a payment intent, we use the stripe.paymentintents.create method, and then we pass in the object with the amount. We can pass in multiple properties, but the required ones are amount and currency. Okay, so for the currency, we are only just going to be using US dollars. Okay, so we are not going to implement any currency exchange. Okay, I've seen a microservice whereby I think it was one of Google's microservices tutorial online that I saw, that they implemented a service to perform currency exchange. So you can convert currencies from one currency to another, but we are not implementing that. We are only going to be using US dollars. Okay, so he says for the amount it's required. Now this is the amount intended to be collected, and it requires for it to be a positive integers. It cannot contain a decimal. Okay, so the currency cannot contain a decimal. So if you have maybe for 100 maybe 10 euros or $10, $10.5, and then if you add 10.5, it's going to throw an error. So it always has to be an integer, so it cannot contain any decimal. Okay, so it says e.g. 100 cents to charge $1. So if you want to charge $1, instead of adding 1, you add it as 100, because if you add it as 1, Stripe will see it as 1 cent. Okay, or if you want to charge $1, then you add 100 cents. So it must always be an integer, not a floating point or a decimal. Okay, so the amount value supports up to 8 digits. Okay, so you cannot add 0.5. Okay, you cannot add, you have to convert this to an integer. Okay, so whatever 0.5 is in US dollars, that is 50 cents, you have to convert it. And then the currency, we are going to use euros. Okay, and then there are other options we can add, like automatic payment methods, confirm, customer description, metadata. Okay, so let's go ahead now and create this payment intent. I'll copy this. Okay, this payment intent, copy it, and then let's come right here. I'll say let payment intent of type stripe.response, and then we have stripe.payment intent. Okay, so this is just the type. Okay, yeah, I will remove this, but first I will do if customer ID. So if this customer ID is available, so if customer ID, then we create the payment intent. Now the reason why I'm adding this variable using let and outside of this condition is because I want to send the payment intent ID to the client, to the front end. Okay, so it is with that payment intent ID that we are going to make the actual payment from the front end. Okay, so that is why this, normally I would have done something like this, but if I do it this way, I won't be able to use this object outside of this if condition. Okay, now let us calculate our service fee. Remember, we've talked about the service fee. Now let us calculate the service fee. Now I just implemented it using some random percentage. Okay, so the service fee charge is going to be 5.5% of the total price, okay, of the normal price, okay. So for example, if a gig costs $10 US, then we are going to add a 5.5% charge to that, okay. Now the 5.5% is going to be if the price is less than $50. So if it's less than $50, we add 5.5, okay, with an additional $2 applied to it, okay. I can't remember exactly where I saw that. I saw something like that online, so I decided to use it, okay. And that is how some of these marketplaces, they apply some percentage and then some additional charge, okay. So what I'm going to do is here I'll say, let me add a comment. The service charge is 5.5% of the purchase amount. So whatever the purchase amount is, we'll add 5.5%. And then for purchases, okay, under $50, okay, an additional $2 is applied, okay. So this is just something I just came up with. Now let's create that. So const service fee. Now note, we are also going to always calculate it on the back end and the front end, okay. So don't make that mistake, because if you calculate it on the front end and you send it, there might be some kind of dubious users of your application that might understand exactly what to do, and then they might change the value, okay. So you calculate it on the front end and then calculate it on the back end as well, okay. So service fee will be of type number and will be equal to request.body.price. If it's less than 50, okay, here we say for purchases under 50, we want to add the 5.5% plus an additional 2%, okay. So we are going to say 5.5 divided by 100, okay, times request.body.price. I hope I'm getting this correctly, okay, then plus $2 extra, okay. But if it's over $50, then we just add this, okay. I hope I'm calculating this correctly. Otherwise, I'll check the service fee to make sure that it's what I actually want. So this is just the idea for the service fee. So if the price is less than 50, we add 5.5 divided by 100 times the price. Then we add additional $2. Else we just add the 5.5%. Okay. Now our amount, we are going to use math.floor. Remember, in the documentation, the amount has to be a number, okay? So the amount, it has to be a number, not a floating point or a decimal, okay? So here is going to be request.body.price plus service fee. And then how do you, if you have decimal, how do you convert it? Just multiply it by 100. So whatever the value is going to be based on the service fee and the price, just multiply it by 100. It's going to convert it to the actual number in cents. Okay, since we are using dollar, so this is going to be USD. Okay, we are using dollar, so it's going to be in cents. Okay, and then we want to add the customer, so we need to set customer ID. Okay, so we are mapping the customer to this particular payment. Okay, and then we can set this automatic payment methods and then set it to true. Now we have our payment intent. Let's go ahead and call res.status and then status codes dot created and then dot JSON. Now for this, we are going to send the message. I can say order intent created successfully. Then we are going to add two other properties. I will add client secret. Okay, so this client secret will be returned. We will need this on the front end. Okay, So this will be payment. Okay, so payment intent dot client secret. Instead of using this, I'll use the exclamation symbol, okay, to tell it that, okay, we are expecting it to be a string. Here you can see it's either a string or null. So we're telling it that we are expecting a string. Or if you don't want to do this, you can just wrap this here as a string. I think this should work. Okay, no. I think we use this shebang symbol right here. And then the last one is going to be the payment intent ID. Okay, so it will be payment intent dot ID. So these are the information we want to send back to the front end. But it's going to go to the API gateway, and then from the API gateway to the front end. Okay, so if you go back to the documentation, you can see here and then check the response. Okay, so you can check the response. We are getting the client secret. Okay, so whatever this client secret is, that is what we are getting for this particular payment. And then we are going to use it on the front end. So this is just how we create our customer and then create the intent. On the front end, we are going to use the client secret and possibly the payment intent ID.